Welcome to Historical Logics, the channel where we explore the turning points of human history, uncovering the stories, sacrifices, and lessons that shaped our world. Today we journey back to the early 20th century, to one of the most devastating and transformative events in history, World War I. This war was not only a clash of empires but a collision of old traditions and modern technology that changed humanity forever. The story of World War I begins long before the first shot was fired in 1914. For decades, Europe was a web of powerful alliances, political rivalries, and national ambitions. The great empires of the time, Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire, were competing for territory, trade, and dominance. Behind the scenes, nationalism was rising. Every country wanted to prove its strength and every nation believed it was destined to rule. The spark that ignited the war came from the Balkans, a region already tense with ethnic divisions and political conflicts. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated in Sarajevo by a Serbian nationalist. What could have remained a local incident quickly spiraled into a global disaster. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia came to Serbia's defense, Germany supported Austria-Hungary, and soon France and Britain were pulled in through their alliances. Within weeks, Europe was engulfed in war. At first, people believed it would be over quickly. Crowds cheered as soldiers marched through the streets, singing patriotic songs, believing they would return home victorious within months. But what followed was 4 years of unimaginable suffering, destruction, and loss. The world entered a new kind of warfare, one that no one had ever seen before. The Western Front, stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland, became a line of endless trenches. Soldiers lived, fought, and died in the mud. The ground between opposing trenches, known as no man's land, was filled with barbed wire, landmines, and the bodies of those who tried to cross it. The constant shelling, the stench of death, and the fear of gas attacks turned life in the trenches into a living nightmare. The weapons of World War I were unlike anything before. Machine guns could mow down hundreds of men in minutes. Artillery shells turned battlefields into craters of destruction. Poison gas was used for the first time, burning the lungs and blinding soldiers. Tanks made their first appearance, clumsy but powerful, and airplanes began to play a role in reconnaissance and bombing. The war had become industrial, fought with machines rather than men, and the human cost was enormous. By 1915, both sides were locked in a deadly stalemate. Millions had died, but neither the Allies nor the Central Powers were gaining ground. The Eastern Front saw vast movements of armies across Russia and Eastern Europe, while in the Middle East, British and Ottoman forces fought for control of strategic regions. The war spread far beyond Europe, pulling in colonies and soldiers from Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. It was the first truly global conflict. The impact of the war was not only on the battlefield. Back home, entire societies were transformed. Men went to fight while women stepped into factories, hospitals, and offices to keep nations running. Economies were drained as resources were poured into weapons and supplies. Civilians faced food shortages, rationing, and air raids. Propaganda became a powerful weapon, shaping public opinion and maintaining morale. As the war dragged on, hope began to fade. The soldiers were exhausted, the people were hungry, and the governments were struggling to keep their nations together. By 1917, the strain was too much. In Russia, revolution broke out, toppling the Tsar and eventually leading to the rise of the Bolsheviks under Lenin. Russia withdrew from the war, signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany. This allowed Germany to focus its forces on the Western Front, but it was already too late. That same year, the United States entered the war after German submarines attacked American ships and a secret telegram revealed Germany's attempt to ally with Mexico against the U.S. The arrival of fresh American troops in 1918 gave the Allies new strength. The balance of power shifted. Germany launched one final desperate offensive in the spring, hoping to win before the American forces could fully arrive. They advanced rapidly at first, but the counterattack by the Allies pushed them back. By the autumn of 1918, the Central Powers were collapsing. Bulgaria surrendered in September, the Ottoman Empire followed in October, and Austria-Hungary began to disintegrate as its many nationalities declared independence. Finally, on November 11, 1918, Germany signed an armistice. The guns fell silent. After 4 years of horror, the Great War was over. The cost of the war was beyond comprehension. Over 16 million people were dead, and more than 20 million were wounded. Entire cities and villages were destroyed. The map of Europe was redrawn as empires fell and new nations were born. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire, and the Russian Empire all ceased to exist. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles officially ended the war. It placed full blame on Germany and imposed heavy reparations and territorial losses. The treaty was meant to ensure peace, but it sowed the seeds of future conflict. The harsh conditions created resentment in Germany, a resentment that would later help fuel the rise of Adolf Hitler and lead to World War II. The world after World War I was a very different place. The optimism of the early 1900s was gone, replaced by disillusionment and grief. The survivors were haunted by what they had seen. A whole generation of young men had been lost. The war also gave rise to new art, literature, and philosophy that reflected the trauma of the times. Writers like Erich Maria Remarque and poets like Wilfred Owen captured the futility and tragedy of war in words that still move readers today. World War I also marked the beginning of major social and political changes. Women gained more rights as a result of their wartime contributions. New ideologies such as communism and fascism began to shape the world's political landscape. The League of Nations was established in hopes of preventing future wars, but its power was limited, and the peace it promised would not last. The war had fractures that went far beyond politics. It broke families, nations, and even the spirit of humanity. It was a war that promised glory but delivered only sorrow. From the muddy trenches of the Western Front to the deserts of the Middle East, from the seas where ships were sunk to the skies where pilots fought dogfights, every corner of the world felt its pain. The technological advancements born from the war also changed the future. Aviation, medicine, and industry all advanced rapidly because of wartime needs. But behind every invention was a price paid in blood. The modern world was built on the ruins of the old one. As we look back today, World War I remains a reminder of how fragile peace can be and how easily pride, power, and politics can destroy it. It showed the world that no one truly wins in war. Every victory comes with loss, and every empire eventually falls. The lessons of World War I are still relevant. The war was supposed to be the war to end all wars, yet it became only the beginning of even greater conflicts. It taught humanity about the dangers of nationalism, militarism, and unchecked ambition. It showed that technology, no matter how advanced, cannot save humanity from itself. From the ashes of that war, the world rebuilt itself, but the scars never disappeared. Memorials and cemeteries across Europe still stand as silent witnesses to the cost of human arrogance. Every name carved in stone is a story of someone who believed they were fighting for a better world, only to be swallowed by the madness of war. World War I was more than a conflict between nations, it was a turning point for humanity. It changed how we see war, how we value life, and how we understand peace. It forced the world to face its own darkness and question what civilization truly means. And as we remember it today, we must never forget that behind every battle, there were human lives, dreams, and families destroyed. History is not just about dates and treaties, it is about the people who lived through it, those who fought, and those who never came back. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of World War I and want to learn more about the hidden causes, forgotten heroes, and lasting effects of history's greatest turning points, make sure to support the channel. Subscribe to Historical Logics for more in-depth stories, reviews, and analyses of the events that shaped our past and continue to influence our present. Stay curious, stay aware, and remember, history is not just what happened before us, it is what continues to shape who we are today.